So last year, I had a close friend who I watched kind of go through a lot of emotional turmoil because of something that she couldn't forgive herself for. Have you ever had a time in your life where you did something and you didn't necessarily handle it the right way, and you had to go and apologize to someone for the way that you handled a situation? I mean, who hasn't been there, right? I would hope that if you had, that you actually did take the time to go and apologize for whatever misgivings that were involved. That's only the adult, mature thing to do. So that's cool. That's normal. However, sometimes, despite our best efforts to make amends and apologize for things and do better the next time, sometimes we just can't seem to forgive ourselves. Now, this is something that isn't talked about a lot, at least not in my experience, but I'm going to talk about it today. And the reason I think it's important is because I think that people get hung up and stuck in their mind when they can't forgive themselves for things. And, that's just not productive. It doesn't really help you move forward. And it doesn't really do anything to make things better for whoever the other person was that you hurt. Or even if it's not that you hurt someone else, maybe you just messed up something and it was just a situation. It doesn't improve the situation. It doesn't undo what happened. So there's really no reason to stay stuck. As long as you're learning from the mistakes and you're growing and you're moving forward, that's really what matters. But nonetheless, we still get stuck with an inability to forgive ourselves sometimes. So that's what I want to talk about today. So last year, I had a close friend who I watched kind of go through a lot of emotional turmoil because of something that she couldn't forgive herself for. And it was really heart-wrenching to watch because I felt hopeless and helpless. I couldn't do anything to ease that pain for her. There wasn't anything that anybody could do. So I decided that I wanted to do some research and try to find some ways that I might be able to be more helpful if that comes up again, either for a friend or a family member, or even if a client happens to find themselves in this space. It could be somebody that I'm working with. So here we go. Today, I am going to talk about an approach for self-forgiveness. And actually, this is going to be a series. So this first video talks about 5 steps that you can take to approach self-forgiveness. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to say is I want to remind you that the topic of self-forgiveness is actually very important. Do it for yourself, do it for your loved ones, just do it. Make sure that you don't get stuck in this mud of tearing yourself apart about a mistake that you made. The first thing that you need to do is acknowledge and accept the emotions that you're feeling around the situation. I encourage you to sit with these feelings. Don't try to avoid them. Actually, you'll want to probably write them down. Any guilt or shame or anything that you're feeling, write it down, get it out of your system, and fully acknowledge it. Because until you acknowledge the emotions, you can't move past them. Next, you need to make sure to separate your mistakes from your identity. Mistakes are a part of life. They are a part of the growth process, and they do not define who you are as a person. So rather than look at these mistakes as something to be labeled by, just look at them as growth opportunities. They're learning opportunities. It's just a moment for growth. Now, once you've done that, the next step is to take ownership, but remember to be kind to yourself. So what this means is instead of spiraling into self-blaming, just take responsibility for what happened and be proactive and ask yourself, what would you do differently the next time? You can just take as much time as you need to think that through and play out the scenario again. Don't do it to the point where it's going to be a point of obsessing, because that's not what we're after. But if you can construct a new way of doing things, if a situation similar to that were to arise again, you'll know what to do differently next time. Step 4, practice self-compassion. I want to remind you to treat yourself with the same compassion and empathy that you would treat a close friend in the same situation. Small gestures like speaking affirmations can really help. You could even turn it into a morning routine. Create a ritual out of it. No matter what's going on, I think it's a good idea to always lead with self-compassion. Whether you've made a mistake or not, we could all use a little boost. And finally, step 5, envision the next steps forward. I encourage you to make small positive steps towards healing, even if it's something tiny. This can include making amends, finding support if necessary, and also creating boundaries to help you make better choices that are aligned with your values. And speaking of values, defining your values is foundational to self-forgiveness. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next video. So stay tuned.